Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which is science of fake life imagination or study of fake life imagination. I have a very, very special guest today, Abhijit Iyer Mitra. Let's go straight to him. Welcome, Abhijit.
Hi.
Abhijit, if we see the American media that calling people thug or a thief or they use the I don't know what kind of words they use, murderer, killers. Now, how is it viewed internationally? From,
I can tell you one thing. Even at our worst time with Pakistan, the kind of language that Biden and the American press use for Putin and things, we have never used in this country. Not the government, not the media, right? Uh, I think it's going back to a stage of before diplomacy when you didn't use this kind of language in public. And that's not a good thing because that kind of shows you that the kind of diplomatic norms you've built up over the last, what, 150 years is eroding.
and I was reading an interview of the Cuban diplomat ambassador, and I was really shocked to know that any any export from US, which is more than 10% of American components in it, is not allowed to be sent to Cuba. Like any Cuban import cannot have more than 10% American content in it. So therefore, no planes are sold to them. Nothing is sold to them because every single plane has more than 10%. Now, such a large country and Cuba, Haiti, Mexico. Now, what is the reason that all these countries are poor, with US being the number one economy in the world for so long?
Well, Mexico used to be very rich once upon a time. Mexico used to be a superpower. They screwed themselves over. And it's nobody's fault except the Mexicans' own fault. Um, Cuba, well, Cuba needs to learn how to pick fights. If you unnecessarily pick fights with people bigger than you, then you suffer the consequences. Haiti is particularly sad because you look at the island that it's on, Hispaniola. Uh, Half is Haiti, the other half is the Dominican Republic, right? You look at the Dominican Republic on satellite, it's lush, green, well maintained. You look at the Haitian side, you can see the deforestation start exactly at the border. Right. So it has a lot to do with their own internal politics and how they've screwed themselves over. Best of luck to them.
I was comparing the situation now to India's neighbors also. Sri Lanka
Mm.
and Pakistan is a disaster in any way. But there are other. Sri Lanka has collapsed. Maldives is in danger. So all these economies are in danger. So is it an international thing that when the large economy prospers, all these smaller countries there's collapse in the sides?
No, I think it's just, I mean, uh, look, Bangladesh is doing much better than us, right? Burma definitely hasn't collapsed. Nepal has its own periodic problems. So, no, it has nothing to do with a big country, small country issue. It has much more to do with the fact that you have just plain bad economics and internal politics. That's it. Like Sri Lanka's problems, what did it have to do with India? Technically, none of Mexico's problems are created by America. Yeah, they fought wars and America grabbed almost half of Mexico's territory. But that was territory that Mexico had never developed by itself. It was undeveloped territory which started getting developed after America took it over, right? So no, it's not a big country, small country thing. Though the people in those small countries would have you believe it's a big country problem. Like the famous Mexican president Benito Juarez, he used to say, after whom Benito Mussolini was named, incidentally. Benito Juarez used to say, Mexico's great tragedy was that it was so close to America and so far from God.
So the sanctions, when you talk about the sanctions on Russia, and the Mexican economy has been a tragedy because Mexico and US share $500 billion of trade. Most of the trade is from maquiladoras. Maquiladoras is fully owned by the US, most of them. Now, in terms of sanctions on Russia, we see that the Russian ruble is tied to the gold now, 5,000 Russian rubles to a gram of gold. Now, and the value of ruble went up. American inflation is almost touched 11% 2 weeks back, and now it is around 10%, or maybe more actually, more than 11. And but the dollar has stayed stable according to American exchanges, even though the ruble valuation has changed according to Russia. So, is there a manipulation big time in the dollar
Look,
valuation?
you're asking the wrong person. I don't understand finance and I don't understand sports. So I never talk about finance or sports. Economics, yes, but finance, no.
So, from the economic point of view, what impact will have on the global economy on the Russian ruble being tagged to the dollar?
Right. So what used to happen was normally when you sanction certain things, mostly we've seen sanctioning of either economically irrelevant or single product economies or single commodity economies. But here you're seeing the sanctioning of a multi-commodity economy, right? Multi-commodity, multi-product economy. So it's commodities plus fertilizers plus a lot of agricultural produce. So as it is, you've seen inflation. Inflation started the moment Biden came to office. It didn't start with Russia. It's taken almost over a year now, and inflation is going through the roof because of further oil shocks. Plus, because the UAE and Saudi Arabia are refusing to release oil reserves and things like that. Why? Because their oil reserves got hit by the Houthis, which is the same movement that Biden de-recognized as terrorists. He removed them from the terror list. And when they attack Saudi refineries, you refuse to condemn it, and you want the Saudis to pump up oil production. Obviously, the Saudis are going to say, go take a hike, which is what they've done. So the problem now is that most of this recession that we're seeing, the prices and things like that, they have a lot more to do with the sheer mismanagement of the economy by Biden. And because it always has knockdown effects, because added to the Russia problem, it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Normally, we would see a readjustment happening in about 2 to 3 months' time. But I think because there's a multi-system, multi-product, multi-commodity shock, we may see about a year or two worth of turmoil, if
And
not.
and Japan has also, continued their oil agreements with Russia to honor them. And Japan is going to buy the oil. Hungary is continuing that, and Germany may reduce it. Germany recently captured the Gazprom facility from Russia. So
They didn't capture the Gazprom facility, they cut it off. But Hungary is the one to watch right now, because Hungary is going to, Viktor Orban won on a very pro-Putin platform. And remember, Zelensky tried to campaign against him. He named and shamed Hungary. And in his victory speech, Orban has named Zelensky as an opponent that he overcame. So it's going to be fun to watch the EU, especially how Hungary plays its cards within the EU.
So, what is the India's position going to be in future? Because Indian government honored a Russian foreign minister with a meeting with Modi, Prime Minister Modi, but they did not allow British foreign secretary to meet, and other people who had come, even Chinese foreign minister. So, how is India playing the cards on this one? What is India's position going to be?
Remember, we allowed Lavrov to meet the prime minister, but we didn't allow him to take a picture of the meeting with the prime minister. Right. So, whereas the other two weren't allowed to meet. It's generally the signal that's going out is don't try to bully us. It won't be good for you. Now, Russia didn't try to bully us. So, at the same time, we don't approve of the invasion of Ukraine. So we can't be seen to be approving of the invasion of Ukraine, but it is normal. Most foreign ministers who visit are given a meeting with the prime minister. The issue with Wang Yi coming, the Chinese foreign minister, and Liz Truss coming is that Liz Truss came with a lot of baggage in the past of, bullying India. And that wasn't a meeting that was scheduled to happen after that. With Wang Yi, it was still Galwan. The belief that the Chinese had was that this could be the new normal, and India is very clear that we are not normal, we are not okay. We need to go back to status quo antebellum. Till then, no chance.
The Under Secretary of State, I think Deputy Secretary, Under Secretary Donald Lu is more famous made more famous by Imran Khan recently. But he is also one of the architects of sanctions on India. And Dalip Singh was the architect of sanctions on Russia. So how is Donald Lu viewed in India? Because he is again given a threat to impose sanctions on India.
Look, nobody has even heard of Donald Lu out here. Dalip Singh is probably viewed because of his Indian ancestry or whatever. But remember, normally the way people go gaga over his people of Indian origin, if you notice this time, nobody went gaga over Dalip Singh. So he got a fairly cold reception as well. He didn't meet the prime minister. He didn't meet anybody really worthwhile except maybe Doval. It's Donald Lu remains irrelevant. Donald Lu is very famous or infamous, depending on your point of view on Pakistan. But with regards to India, even Dalip is the normal hoo-ha. I've seen more people turning out to meet Tulsi Gabbard than they did to meet out Dalip Singh.
And one last question, and it won't be on this thing. With the Russian military supplies and the Ukrainian engine supplies to Indian transport fleets, including the ships, engines. So is India seeing a problem in the defense preparedness because of that?
So there's 4 ships that require Ukrainian engines. I don't think those ships are going to get those engines anymore. We're going to have to look for Russian alternatives because I suspect those factories have been bombed.
I mean, the media reports that factories have not been bombed. Those factories have not been bombed. They're still working. That's what I heard. But I did not.
I don't think they're working, but I won't count on them remaining unbombed.
I mean, do you think the Ukraine will be as friendly to us as before in India?
Well, let's see. I personally think if there's a war crimes trial, Zelensky will be the first person to get convicted.
That's what people are thinking. But the American media has made him a hero now all over the US. So
America has a long history of making these heroes, right? If you remember, Noriega was a hero till the dictator of Panama. Noriega was a hero till they decided he was a drug peddler and decided to throw him in jail, right? America has a lot of these heroes. Saddam Hussein was once a hero till he invaded Kuwait. America has a whole history of heroes turning villain. What's a hero today will turn into a villain tomorrow.
So there is one very interesting story, and I was watching the Hannity show. I rarely watch these shows, but I just turned it on. And I was seeing the gung-ho aspect that we need to start the American exceptionalism. We need to get into Ukraine and fight with Russia with our tanks, and Biden is not doing enough. And at the same time, I hear no troops on the ground. So what's going on according to your analysis from abroad? That what's going on with the American psyche, that we want to fight, but we don't want to send the troops. So
no. America doesn't want to fight. America wants Ukraine to fight. Okay, America likes creating Afghanistans. So this is more to do with the fact that when you have a failing economy, a failing leadership vision, a failing political narrative, you need to create external diversions. And that's, as Ukraine goes, it's a fantastic external diversion. And mind you, when Ukraine started, did you hear of Fauci?
No.
No.
All
So
well.
for a whole month, there wasn't a single mention of Fauci in the press, right? Now that it turns out that all these war crimes, they're trying very hard to pin it on Russia. But unlike, 2003 and the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, this time, thanks to social media, there's a lot of the story that simply isn't adding up.
That's right.
Right. So, for example, the New York Times put out this thing saying, oh, look, these bodies were there for weeks. It doesn't explain how the white armbands and the tying up of the hands, how the white cloth remains so white. How is there no blood visible? How is it that the bodies didn't decompose over almost 3 weeks now? When the daytime temperature was going up to 17 degrees and the nighttime temperature was around 0 degrees at best. 0 degrees is the beginning of freezing point. You try keeping a steak in your fridge for 2-3 weeks. First of all, your fridge won't be 17 degrees Celsius. Sorry, we're not talking Fahrenheit for your audience. We're talking Celsius. I don't know how much that is in Fahrenheit. But try keeping a steak in your wine cooler or chicken in your wine cooler for 17 days. See how long it lasts. It's not going to last for more than 3-4 days. It's going to start rotting. But we're meant to believe that for 2-3 weeks now, these bodies haven't rotted. So that entire narrative is coming apart at the seams. And unsurprisingly, we now have Fauci back in the news warning about a third COVID wave.
I mean, what a media manipulation of Americans. I mean, you don't have words for it. Now, one of the things which comes up with is that the American exports have declined during the last 2 months because of various sanctions. So more countries are trying to source other countries for their needs, especially African Union. So the Africa Com, people do not know that there is a military command of US in Africa based out of Stuttgart in Germany. They've issued a warning that the civil wars might increase. Have you heard something like that in India?
Look, I don't think civil wars, but generally, when prices go up, when you see inflation of the kind you're seeing now, uh, a lot of countries that depend, so Egypt imported a lot of its wheat from Russia, which is now completely stopped. The basic thing is when prices go up, you start seeing civil unrest. Okay, because it's classic resource competition. You can't get away from that.
Last question, that we are seeing a new Indian foreign policy which is very firm on what they want to achieve. But at the same time, we are seeing, and we've always known that the West always takes a revenge, always takes a revenge. So did the Indian foreign policy experts, they actually took into factor that the American revenge is going to come shortly?
Look, I think we've been seeing a whole load of very worrying behavior by America because this is a directionless, headless chicken of a government in America at the moment. We don't know which hand is playing what. We were already really upset when they started saying, oh, subnational diplomacy and things like that, which is another jargon for balkanization, basically. So we've already we've got our guard raised with the Americans right now. Let's see what happens. We know there'll be some kind of what shall we say, punishment or whatever coming. We don't know what it is, when it is, how it's going to be, etc. But the good thing is, at least we're taking it much more seriously now. Before, when it was just the New York Times and the Washington Post going off at us, we never took it seriously. Now we're taking it seriously, and it's good. As long as you're taking it seriously, it's good.
Yeah. No, the bully diplomacy of USA has really caused a lot of people. People are now more aware that the military was always behind America's diplomacy, always, either military or deals. Now, the world has to work on something where America is also brought to justice in some ways or the other. And the only countries which can do that is countries like India, Japan, mostly in the Asian countries. Europe is never going to do that. So do you think that kind of understanding is coming? Brazil is also pretty much on the India's side because of BRICS. What do you think?
Look, we don't know. There's basically a split of the global order happening at the moment. What shape it's going to take, is it going to be for better or for worse? I don't really know. Personally, I would have much rather been part of an American economy, and I think 90% of Indians would much rather be part of an American economic system than a Chinese economic system. Because the Chinese economic system, we've seen what's happened to Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Right now, the problem here is that the way America has abused the global commons and used it selectively, it's not something we're willing to place our faith in anymore.
And Russian sanctions have really destroyed it. Thank you all for watching, and we will come back to you. Please do comment and let us know your feedback. Thank you.